Recording in progress.
So good afternoon, everyone. This side Sanjay Suman from ICMI Social Auditor Organization.
Good afternoon, sir.
So today's our guest faculty is Mr. Venkatesh Mukti sir. He is already joined. So Mr. Venkatesh Murthy is the founder of and CEO of Singapore-based Vans Group. In foreign market, he is famous as Vanky. Mr. Vanky is an environmentalist working in the field of e-waste for over 3 decades. He is pioneer in e-waste because recycling techniques and precious metal recovery. Currently, he is operating 5 companies along with an institute solely dedicated to e-waste management under the Vans Group. So I am welcoming to Mr. Venkatesh Murthy sir for this program. Welcome, sir, and good afternoon.
Very good afternoon, sir. Thanks to ICMAI Social Auditors Organization for inviting me as today's speaker. And as you all know that we are going to discuss one of the very important topic for the mankind, which is a EEE products, electronic, electrical equipment products. And there are a lot of big things are going on around the electronics today. One is electronics has given so much of convenience for the mankind. At the same time, the same electronics, once it ends its life, has also given so much of impact to our natural environment, health and safety, to certain extent, the corporate social responsibility, and so on. So the topic has 3 key elements today. One is how, as an individuals, we could able to help our own environment so that this environment is available for our future generation. As a company or corporates, what we should do to prevent such pollution, usage of exploitation of the natural resources, and finally compliances part, what we need to do to comply to make sure our environment is safe and secured for our next generation. So these 3 are the key topics, and then we also look at the business aspects of the electronic waste. Sir, am I audible to all? Is everything okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, very nice. So let me just share my slides. And Ranjit, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So transformation of the electronic waste into wealth are nothing but values. So the key points which of today's discussion, one is what's going on across the globe, what all the statistics are talking about electronic waste generation, and Asia Pacific as well as India. And what are the impacts of electronic waste, both if we don't recycle, what are the impacts? If we do recycle, what are the benefits? And why do we need to recycle the e-waste? Especially countries like India or some of the countries, very challenging risk also there in terms of informal sectors, in terms of implementation of the stringent policies, in terms of lack of the awareness as why we need to recycle and so on. And then again, the opportunities, how we can convert this into as an opportunity to create more employment, and more resources are available above the ground instead of doing the mining, and how we can make these resources as circular, a circularity of the material and the green economy, and what are the global best practices to do the environmental friendly way of recycling, and how we can able to protect our environment. And little bit at the end of the presentations, I also would like to introduce our company, Vance Group of Companies, and what all our verticals and objectives which we are driving towards sustainability and circular economy. So first of all, I think the very important statement which we have to make ourselves: waste is not a waste, nothing but a valuable resources. Subject if you do the recycle in technologically advanced, environmental friendly way. So the second point, which clearly states it is the responsibility of every individuals, those who are using, the triple E products, which could be a mobile phone or the laptop or the iPads or refrigerators, air conditioners, or anything electrically connected, be it a batteries or toys or cars, aeroplanes or office, like appliances like a printers, the photocopiers, whatsoever. So we have reached a stage where take, make, use, and throw does not work sustainably or in the circular economy, because we human beings are exploiting more and more than what is necessary, especially after the industrial, or rather after the agricultural and industrial revolution. This IT revolution has given too much of burden to the environment, which I'm going to discuss what are the impacts which we have created and how we, mankind, has to fix it. So be it a mobile phone to the dishwasher, it brings so much of convenience by a touch. I'm sitting in Singapore, any corner of the world, by a touch of WhatsApp call, Zoom call, MS Team meeting, we can reach anywhere on this planet. That's the convenience this triple E product has given. But the only thing is the sad part, once it ends its life, we do not know where it ends, whether it's in the landfill or our water course or our air pollution, whatever. That is what the key things which we need to understand. But today, these electronics are not just a part of the convenience, it is also a part of the great GDP or the economy, which in my own term, I call it as E is equal to E cube, which is energy, electronics, and environment become a major driving force for any economies of the modern world today. So which is nothing but chemistry and science and technology. Say, man, we created a lot of issues to the environment, which if you look back 30, 40 years back, we never had all these calamities, which man-made disasters. As ICT products given so much of comfortable convenience for us, economical power to us, which was never been the history of this planet. But what we have created is like facing of global warming, glacier ice melts, and the climate change issues, the warming issues, greenhouse gases, ozone layer depletions, plasticizing the ocean, too much of plastics above the ground, which for hundreds and hundreds of years, the plastics are not degradable, which is creating so much of problems if we do burning, and otherwise it will not, it's not degradable kind of nature of the plastics, organics. So rising the sea level because of the glacier ice melts and the nuclear disasters, various diseases. And finally, I think we created so much of our greediness by exploiting more and more. I think we have to fix it. That is where I think world is looking at how to fix these e-waste issues or the environmental issues by managing the waste in environmental friendly way. I think we are all familiar about all these which we are using at home, offices, companies, corporates, and so on. I don't go in detail about it. But what is the point I want to highlight here? It is not a waste. As long as you use mobile phone, every part of the mobile phone has its own value or its own function, be it the casing or be it a plastics or internal various types of components has its own functions. The moment we want to change the mobile phone to the new model, or the software is not working, then we call it as a waste. Yes, functionally it is a waste, but in terms of intrinsic material value, it is not waste. The material value is still intact. So the technology is the only answer how we can able to recover back all these materials and put back to the supply chain. It's not just refrigerators or photocopiers or whatever we use as a triple E products. So basically, anything you take on the planet, as long as electrical, electronic equipments, which basically comprises of metals. Among the metals, the key are the precious metals, which are the value-driven metals in the triple E products like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium, ruthenium, and so on. Likewise, rare earth metals like cobalt, titanium, europium, and so on. I don't go more into the technical side. Strategic metals, base metals like commonly copper, aluminum, nickel, ferrous metals like iron and alloys of steel, stainless steel, other carbon steel, and so on. Not just only valuables, we also use a lot of toxic substances in our electronic products based on the various functionality like lead, mercury, chromium, cadmium, FRP, flame retardant plastics, arsenic, selenium, and so on. And these are all very toxic in nature. And if you do not manage it properly, it causes a lot of damage, not only to the environment, but also to our health and well-being, which we are going to see in our next slide. So predominantly, if you call it as an e-waste, it's basically is a motherboards, which is most of the electronic products, be it the remote or iPad or mobile phone or the laptop or the desktop computers. The heart, the DNA of every electronic product is a motherboard. That's how the functions goes on. So a motherboard basically contains hundreds of different components. And these components made up of various types of metals and metallic salts, like metals are precious metals, or plastics like a fibrous and so on, or various types of compounds. So globally today, we generate about 60 million metric tons of e-waste year on year, 60 million. And it's going in the rate of almost 5% year on year, especially in India. There are statistics saying that, up to 25 to 29% CAGR year on year. But an average globally is about 4.1%. So you can see per capita is about 7.5 kg everyone on the planet, which we take about 8 billion people. 7.5 kgs of e-waste is being generated year on year. Unfortunately, only 17.4% is being recycled today because most of the e-waste in the hands of informal or invisible sectors. What is the value of this e-waste? If you recover back all the metals, the e-waste value is almost equal to 70 billion based on last year, which is the United Nations statistics, and it's going to be 143 billion by 2030. Who are all the major contributors of the e-waste volume? The first, Americas, which is almost close to 13 million metric tons. Next is China, which is close to 11 million metric tons, and followed by India, which is 3.6 or close to 3.5 to 3.6 million metric tons. So you can see the highest recycling countries are Estonia, Norway, Iceland, Sweden, Austria, and majority is European countries, not in Americas, not even in Asia. So the total value is about 84 billion, based on 2023 statistics, and in which Asia contributes about 44 billion, Americas about 20 billion, and Europe is about $18 billion equivalent of electronic waste. So why Asia, the CAGR is so high? I mean, in general, the key indicators why electronics products usage is increasing because of the technology. Today's anything and everything you take, be it at home, be it our office, be it our car, be it our aeroplanes, or anything you take, even educations, medical, especially the post-COVID, so much of new products. Today we are talking about AI, driverless cars, everything smartphones, everything is electronics and electronics, nothing but. So again, these manufacturers of these electronic products, they're also trying to change the technology to make it more marketable and more user friendly. That's where the lifespan of electronic products are getting shorter and shorter. If you remember 20, 30 years back, if you are asking our parents, they used to have a TV for 15, 20 years, or a refrigerators maybe 10, 15 years. Mobile phones, at least 5 to 6 years. But today, there are no such scenarios. Refrigerators ends 15 to 20 years. Maybe 5 years, the new model comes. One or other way, it get faults. And if you call for repair, probably the repair cost will be more than going for the new one, because the smart electrical products, always the printed circuit boards problems or the smart gadgets problems. So once you want to replace, parts may not be make it available on the market. Basically, these manufacturers wants to sell more, so they do not want the consumers to use on a long term period. That's where one of the issue why the more and more volume of e-waste is being generated. And secondly, generally the awareness is the biggest problem. There are many statistics globally states that only 10 to 15% of the population aware the importance of the recycling, looking back the resource value, as well as looking back the responsibility why it has to be recycled. So 70 to 90% population do not know why we need to recycle, what are the values behind the electronic waste, and what are the contributions or the responsibility as an individual user of these electronic products. That's something, the indicators to increase the volume of e-waste generation. Likewise, the regulations are in place, no doubt, but implementation is not there. Enforcement is not there. There are a lot of loopholes in the gray areas. And next is basically on the informal sectors. Countries like in India, I would say, based on our own experience, almost 85% of the electronic waste is in the hands of informal sectors. What they do, basically, they do not have any technical approach, and they don't have any licenses. They have no investment. Basically, it is their bread and butter. They collect, they go to the backyard, they burn it, and they pull out the copper from the cable, they burn the printed circuit boards, maybe pull out the components like copper, precious metal, they put in the chemicals. The recovery rates are only 30 to 40%. The rest they release to the public sewage. I think recent World Health Organization studies shows that, especially the urban cities of India is more polluted, especially like cities like Delhi, Calcutta and all. It's mostly, we see is a dust. Actually, it's all toxic particulate matters coming out from the lead, arsenic, mercury, and our water courses are so much polluted because of all these issues. So India, as I said, generates about 3.5 to 3.6 million metric tons of e-waste year on year. The value of this e-waste is equivalent to $6 billion US, or almost close to 50,000 crores today. You will surprise, only 8 to 10% is coming to the official economy today, out of 50,000 crores. If you put together entire India, hardly a few recyclers are doing it in a right way, unfortunately, and only the tax coming to the official economy is hardly 7 to 8%. Doesn't mean that others are not doing it. It is happening in formal way. The more than they recover, they're endangering their own life, the health issues, as well as they're endangering the environment. That's a more trouble-making issue here. So, what we always encourage, mind the e-waste, not the earth. If you take, probably you all know that as a professionals, our mines, the best mines like in Australia or in Canada or certain African countries may have the gold is about 15 to 25 grams per ton. You will surprise, every 1 ton or 1,000 kgs of electronic waste, the gold content varies from 50 to 250 grams on an average. Mobile phones will be more, iPads may be more, smart laptops may be more, but on an average, whether it's an electrical or electronic products, we have at least 50 grams, 30 to 50 grams of gold. It's not just only gold alone. Out of 1,000 kgs, 97% values can be recovered back. In the sense, plastics can be recovered back, the copper can be recovered back, the nickel can be recovered back, ferrous metals can be recovered back, glass can be recovered back. Likewise, all the precious metal can be recovered back. Whereas in mining, for example, you go for the deep mining, out of 1,000 kgs of mineral and ore, they're only taking out 20 grams. Remaining 99.9% and above is going back as a dirt, as a mud, as a tailings. So in addition to that, we are doing a lot of deforestation, environmental risk. We spoil entire the life cycle of our fauna and all the the animals and so on. So we encourage the above the ground mining, not the below the ground mining, because there are so much of waste or the resource available above the ground. Just that we need a right policy, right mindset, right awareness, so that all these waste can be transformed into the values. So here what you can see, a picture can speak many things, especially in terms of impacts of e-waste management by the unknown invisible sectors. Look at the child is working on the e-waste sectors without knowing that what smoke is coming out. It could be a lead, it could be a mercury, it could be dioxins, it could be furans by burning of the plastics and so on. So their health is at very high risk. They may get a lot of health related issues. Apart from that, environmental issues, irreparable impacts to our environment, health and safety. So in addition to that, we lose a lot of valuable resources by conventional or traditional way of recycling by the informal sectors. No technology, no proper understanding, no licenses. So by burning, by manual handling, they're endangering their own life as well as losing of the resources as well as our beautiful environment. There are so many proven data available today. There are so much of problems today from various toxic elements in the electronic products, be it an antimony, arsenic, barium, beryllium, cadmium, chromium, dioxins and furans from the plastics, lead most commonly used in the printed circuit board, mercury especially from the bulbs and so on, and nickel is a common in the batteries. Likewise, many other toxic elements. So on the right side, you can see what are the problems you face: kidney issues, skin problems, fertility problems, heart problems, liver, whatnot. I think there are so much of studies and so much of records showing that today's the health conditions. Apart from the junk food, we also create so much of issues at home. So in a way that indoor pollutions are more than outdoor pollution, because we dump everything indoor, like be it in detergents, be it various sprays, various type of batteries, the toys. We are emotionally connected to old things, so everything we keep at our home. Rather, we don't think that these all the electronics always has the toxics and metals. We don't think that that will keep quiet. Generally, they always wants to go back to their stable state by oxidizing, creating the bad environment within the house. That's what we call as indoor pollution, more than the outdoor pollution. Indoor now, that's how a lot of skin allergies, then irritations and so on, all happens because of it. And again, the radiation. Post-COVID, we see a lot of kids are losing their eyesight because of the radiation. Smartphones, they use a lot of high-tech rare earth metals to make the screen more attractive, bright, and which indirectly the eyesight issues are happening. But all these are not being very well documented or being told to the consumers because of the producers' interest in marketing more and taking advantage commercially. So here is the point, the challenges. Whether it's a developing country or developed country, the triple E products chemistry is the same in the sense whether you use the laptop in Singapore or in America or in India, the laptop made up of plastics and metals, and the toxics are inside. So if it has to impact, it is the same impact whether it is an American or European or Indian or Singaporean. It's the same impact, irrespective of the country. To the environment is the same impact because we share the same planet. And even values wise, whether it's a gold or plastics or whatsoever, it's all international price. So it's not that if you recover in Singapore, the value is more. If you recover in India, the value is less. In fact, if you recover in India, the value is more because we spend a lot more to the customs duty to import certain metals, especially the gold. 90% of the gold is being imported. And India consumes almost 1,100 tons of gold, 33% of the gold production globally by India for various, And we pay about 9 to 11% of the import duties, customs duties by importing. But we export all these resources, unfortunately, because the lack of technology, lack of awareness, lack of proper regulations and stringent policies. That's where most of the e-waste are in the hands of informal sectors. We export the resources, we import the toxic, and we import, like all the metals from the Japan, Europe, and Americas. So that's where the confusions. If the planet is same, if the impact is the same, if the chemistry is the same, if the value is the same, why different country follow different regulations? So it's the point which globally we need to debate. And apart from that, what other challenges India is having today, many don't know the impacts, awareness, lack of awareness. And informal sectors, we don't know where they enter, where they exist. They may come to households, to the offices, they pay certain X rupees, hey, collect the CRT monitors, and they may extract certain lead and the rest they throw into the dustbin or to the public sewage or into the landfill. That's why we don't know the entry and exit of the informal sectors because they are not traceable, they do not have license, and they don't know what they are doing. So again, the formal sectors, why the formal sectors are not coming forward in India? Because of lack of strong regulatory requirement, unlike in Singapore or in European countries, or even Japan, Taiwan, and all. No doubt, transformations are happening in India. We have seen since last 10 years, great transformation is happening. But still, I think the speed is not strong, good enough as compared to the volume of e-waste is being generated. We are the third largest. Probably it's being predicted another 5 to 10 years. I think we would be the first highest quantum of e-waste generating country, which is India. Unfortunately, until today, we don't see much in terms of technological investment, green funding, and so on. So lack of technology, expert knowledge, inadequate experience, the gap among all the stakeholders means the producers, the consumers, be it the bulk consumers or individual consumers or recyclers, they do not coordinate or collective decisions are not there. That's where the industry is still at the stage of understanding, and everyone looking for highest returns by selling their second hand or the one it's not working, they wanted to sell at highest price without knowing what's going to happen for those electrical products. So all these are the challenges we have. Why we need to recycle, because electronics is not just a product, but it has got a lot of critical strategic materials as well as this is an important in terms of economy as well as environment. So we have to make sure these electronics once it ends its life, instead of just dumping or informal way of recycling, we should think of how to extend the life so that we can save equivalent quantum of mining, and we can also save so much of greenhouse gases, which is indirectly creating so much of global warming and other issues for this environment. So green economy, especially you all in the corporate sectors, what does it means? Reducing the environmental risk is supposed to be one of the ESG goal from the corporations and the bulk consumers. So as we are running out of certain metals like gold, copper, another 50, 100 years, the way in which we are digging today, another 50 years, we may run out of all these resources. I think so far we have only one planet. Once we run out of copper, gold, silver, and all, I think the life would be very, very difficult because we do not have any other resources as such we know from this planet. So it has to be sustainable development with protecting the environment, and we need to closely, watch out on the ecological economics, but of course, politically applied, focus to be given to make sure the green financing to support the recycling technologies, green infrastructure, like how China, for example, in 2016, China decided to put the green fence, in the sense, no importation of any electronic waste into China. Until 2016, China used to import 85% of the global e-waste, out of which almost 98% of the US electronic waste into China, because US is not Basel signatory, unlike other 100 over countries, 190 countries. US is not still signatory of the Basel Convention, transboundary movement. So it's a free, importation and exportation from US to China. But once they put the green fence, even to certain extent, all the importation stopped. But again, unethical or illegal importation happens through Vietnam, through Malaysia, Pakistan, and of course, some to India and so on. So it's important to have the green financing to support the recycling companies, important to have a green infrastructure, like a hub concept to strengthen the formal way of recycling, social equality, why there is a double standards between the states, between the countries in terms of regulations, and why renewable energies are the forefront. We need to look at it instead of the fossil fuels, which we have know that how much it causes to the environment in terms of greenhouse gases and so on. And reverse logistic transportation. So the majority, today's the CO2 emissions are from the transport sectors, and we have so much of issues with the greenhouse gases. And again, the water security or the water consolidation. So that's one of the very scarce commodity today, which never be spoken loudly so far. But I think India is facing severe water scarcity in line with any some of the other commodity and so on. So that's also equally important. So the e-waste and ESG, whether it's an environmental sustainability goal of the company or environmental, social, and the governance performance to demonstrate, I think the companies has to engage the eco-friendly way of recycling. They need to demonstrate that they follow strictly in terms of e-waste recycling and compliances to all the regulations set by the government. They have their own leadership in terms of their own ESG goals, corporate social responsibility, extended producer responsibility, so that the electronic waste will not be given to someone who has no a proper recycling knowledge or the facility. It has to be given to someone who can able to do the recycle in an environmental friendly way and able to recover back and put back to supply chain. That's the leadership I think every one of us has to take by creating more awareness among all the consumers. So we talk about circular economy. Like I said in the beginning of my discussions, take, make, use, and throw has been proven today that we don't have any more resources, and it's getting more expensive to do the mining and the environmental expenses and human health and safety expenses. We see every other day that there are so many miners are stuck in the deep mine and they lost their life. There are so much of deforestation is happening. We are losing a lot of the wildlife and so on. So the best way is to work under the circular economy, make these materials whatever already available above the ground under the circularity. So make into more green products so that we can minimize the toxics inside the electronic products. And consumer behavior, especially, generally we likes to have more phones, more luxury electronic products and so on. So we need to change the behavior by knowing the importance of recycling, by knowing that why we need to have more and more electronic. Can we able to live like 30 years back, 40 years back, there were no electronics, there were no electrical products, life was so beautiful. But today, some or other way, we fully depend on the electronic. The day starts with electronics, the day ends with electronics. Even sleeping also, we have some or other way of music and so on. The phones will never stop, even though we stop the sleep, but phones will never stop. That's the kind. So that behavior has to change, to reuse, to donate, so that we don't need to buy the new one. That's where we can increase the resource life, and that's where we can reduce the material consumption. We don't need to mine so much from the ground, and collect and transport to the right recycling so that we can minimize the waste and we can extend the value of the material. And finally, by recycling and recovering, we can prevent the pollution by landfilling, so-called the zero emission and zero landfill. So by reducing the resource dependency, and CO2 is something, decarbonization is every company today, especially the listed companies globally, they have to prove their environmental performance, in a bigger world like a corporate social responsibility. They have to prove to the shareholders that what is their equivalent savings of the CO2 emissions, decarbonizations, and they can even do the trading like big the shell companies and all. They do the trading of CO2 as per the United Nations monitors. So this is what we would like to see, a circular economy, so that we don't consume so much and we minimize the risk of environment as well as health and safety by being the responsible consumer of the planet. And we can extend the life. If we cannot use, we could possibly give it to someone who can able to extend another 2 to 3 years instead of going for recycling. If nothing works, the reuse cannot work, repair and remarketing cannot work, and components pull out and reuse it cannot work, then finally it has to be given to the recycling so that they can recover back the materials and put back to supply chain, so that we can save equivalent amount of mining, as well as we can save equivalent amount of environmental impact by minimizing the carbon emissions or carbon footprint. So the business model, yes, we have seen the ugly part of the electronic waste, how much impact, what are the toxics, and what are the metals in them. So we call it as nothing but is an urban mining. As I given one example, like every electronic waste has the various types of resources, be it a plastics, which can be recovered back, be it various types of metals, whether it's iron and steel, or copper, or aluminum, or nickel, or cobalt, or lithium, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. So there are hundreds of different elements and the compounds in the electronic parts. All these can be recovered back. Subject only 2 to 3 things are important. One is awareness is important. Secondly, the regulations are important. And third is the experience and expertise is important. And fourth, most important, is the technology. Technology is the right answer, so that environmental friendly way of recycling to recover back and refine and put back to supply chain. Yeah. So as this is the very traditional way, nothing but informal way of doing the recycling, which is not sustainable. I'm just giving an example, like what are the impacts, like a greenhouse gases, loss of energy. It consumes a lot of energy by running the furnaces and so on, and resources are lost by burning all these e-waste, and irreparable damage, the pollutants. And that's where most of the cities are goes with a lot of toxic and so on. Yeah. So we encourage the good technology, environmental friendly technology, where we work towards zero emission and efficiency is very high so that all the resources can be recovered and put back to the supply chain. And we encourage all these comes back to the secondary raw material into the circular economy so that we can save so much of natural resources, not to dig further, exploit further to fulfill our greediness. And we encourage a smart process so that the turnaround time will be faster, because generally from India, it's being exported to other countries like Europe, Japan, and so on. They take about 3 months to get back the value to the customers or the recyclers' balance sheet. So we are in the process of setting up the integrated plant so that we can make all this available within India, not to export the resources, not to import the final metals. We can make it available to the best extent possible. So, smart technology, less energy consumption, safe working environment, and which will comply with all the standards, be it a national or international standards. And it's not that, it has to be a big lot to process. It can be anything like a portable technology. Yeah. So these are the technologies we have installed. We work with many international, customers. Like in Singapore, we set up about 3 big facilities. In Malaysia, in Taiwan, to a certain extent in US, in South Africa, and of course in Turkey, and of course we are setting up in India. We, as Vans Group of companies, we have various verticals which I'm going to discuss next, and these are the key facilities which we always encourage to make it as one stop service provider, integrated e-waste, data protection basically, like where computers in our computers, any hard disk has a lot of sensitive data. IP protection is one of the key element today's world, especially in the as per the data management concern. And to extend the life, we need to have a proper dismantling, categorization of the various different parts and so on. Then extend the life. If we can repair or reuse, it cannot go for recycling in an environmental friendly way. Yeah. So this all the various plant. I don't go in detail about each individual facilities, but to say 1 or 2 points, like environmental friendly means it's a closed loop process. As being in the recycling company, we are managing the toxic and precious metal. We should not be one creating more problems to the environment. So that's where the technology plays a very important role. It has to be a closed loop, zero emission, and total pollution control systems and so on. Yeah. And we encourage green technology, to make all these products available for the secondary market. This is all the copper refining and pollution control systems, completely closed loop, no landfill and so on. And these are the products, all the pictures you see, which we have recovered from our own plant and facilities, like a gold bars, silver, the gold mud, the copper cathodes, and palladium, platinum, and so on. Yeah. So the overall benefits of doing environmental friendly, of course, you hold the responsibility, greater social responsibility. We save the natural resources, and we save millions of people health and safety, which, you have seen the pictures, like, they are not aware of that, what they are doing. They're burning the cables, they're exposing themselves to the dioxins, furans, which are cancer causing agent. They're exposing to the lead by lead melting. And there are so much of damage to the health, like kidney, heart, lungs, so on. So all these, it's our responsibility, especially as a responsible consumers. We should able to aware that, we should not give it to such informal recycling, rather give it to the formal way of recycling and take account of responsibility. So that this is what the benefits by doing that. And finally, I just would like to introduce our Vans Group of companies verticals. Vans Chemistry Singapore, we provide a kind of consultancy to the customers who wants to set up the e-waste recycling plant. We have about 25 years of experience. In fact, I came to Singapore in 1997, 98. where we used to run with the pager. That is where we started our first recycling company in Singapore. It's a big size in Asia at the time and went for listing and all. So since then, we have created 3 facilities in Singapore with various, partnership and so on. We have our own another vertical called technology, where we transfer the technology to the potential consumers, or so-called e-waste recyclers. And we have Bangalore, our own recycling company, Vance Chemistry Recycling, Bangalore. And we have our own engineering company, so that we fabricate the certain equipments to cut down the cost for certain countries, like in Turkey, in Egypt, in India, and all. We can make our own equipments. And finally, what platform we are talking today is Vance CIIEM. So this is the first institute probably in India, as well as in certain Southeast Asian countries, like the first institute dedicated for e-waste education. It's called International Institute of E-Waste Management, first institute to have this awareness programs about the e-waste, global best practices, policies, and so on. So what we provide under the Vance IEM, the courses, there are various time schedule of the courses, but typically, the role of circular economy, the professional certification, the e-waste management, entrepreneurship. If someone wants to set up the business, we could able to take them, guide them, what are the policies required, technologies, importance, and what they supposed to know in order to set up the business or investment, and what are the key objectives like decarbonization and sustainability development goals, and how the best practices, global best practices, are happening in Europe, in certain states in the US, in Japan, in Taiwan, even in Singapore. As you all know, Singapore is a small green country. We do not have any landfill sites as such throwing up the waste or anything. So it's only just 50 to 60 lakhs people. We have about 5 to 6 big e-waste recycling companies in Singapore. So to keep the country clean, green, and fine. So, like if I compare Singapore to India, probably India needs 50 to 100 such big facilities, the way in which the volume. Singapore generates about 1 lakh tons of e-waste, whereas India generates about 3.5 million tons. You can imagine how many facilities in every state. We probably have few facilities in India, not 1 or 2. So we also have a long-term course, a 1-month entrepreneurship development course, where the students or professionals can take advantage of that. They have a certain theory as well as the practical. They can visit our companies, see how we do the recycling, and so on. Yeah. So we have, as I mentioned to you, about 25 to 30 years of experience in the e-waste business, and installed many facilities. And we have managed the gold so far recovered from all our facilities, directly from our facility, as well as what the technology we given is about 15,000 kgs of gold being recovered for the past almost 20 years. And platinum is about 8,000 kgs, and metal salts like GPC, SPC, 1,500 kgs, silver about 37 tons, palladium 8,000 kgs, and copper is about 30,000 metric tons. Yeah. So, all these are from the electronic waste, not from the primary source or from the mining. Everything from the secondary, either end of life and or the manufacturing rejects, working with the big companies like IBM, HP, Motorola, 3M, Sony Ericsson, Samsung, and so on. All these big companies in their manufacturing sectors. Yeah. So I think with that, I would like to end here, and I would be very happy to take any number of questions. I'm sure I have not crossed the time limit given to me. Back to you, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Please, sir.
Like basically the awareness, like accessibility to e-waste. is a problem in India. Like if I want to give a phone, the easier option is I'll give it to a shopkeeper who gives me some 200 rupees, 300 rupees, and I'm done with it. I don't have the access to e-waste facility. How does help? Like I mean, how will awareness is one thing, but how will if e-waste facilities?
Okay. I think
I think we'll have to go on.
yeah, I think they better to mute all so that we can have it. Yeah. I take your first point, the question like how to dispose of mobile phone, how to find out who can do the recycling. Ranjit, can you just mute all except
Mr. Rakesh Mahajan, Mr. Rakesh Mahajan, go on mute.
Mr. Mahajan, Mr. Rakesh Mahajan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's a good question, very good question actually. That is where I think one of the biggest risk what India is going through is the lack of awareness or lack of a proper network in terms of way to dispose their electronic waste. There are companies, they are trying to create an app now, so that you can just log in and you could communicate with a proper recycling company in your city. I mean, there are various recyclers across the country right now. You need to communicate. Right now, there are no such things. It is mostly B2B, not B2C. That's something we are trying to do through our Vans Institute, like creating awareness among the schools, colleges, institutions, corporates, and so on. So that we are also working on the app now. Once the app is ready, we can. But right now, the best way, I could say you could potentially log into the respective state pollution control board, and there are registered e-waste recyclers, and their phone numbers are mandatorily being given. Their hotline will be given. So you could communicate with the respective city, the pollution control board, registered e-waste recyclers, and call them. The only thing is that, suppose you have one phone or one battery or one monitor, they may not invest so much money to come to your place to collect it. Probably logistic is a challenge country like in India. We have to take that logistic cost on the consumer side. Then I think they can able to render your services. Yeah. If you are in cities like in Bangalore and all, please let us know. I mean, I could ask my people immediately to communicate with you to do that one in case such specific examples being there. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have another question from Mr. Srivastava. He's asking, what are the sources of e-waste supply?
So mostly the 70% of the e-waste today coming out from the bulk consumers as well as the manufacturers. Like example, the most common electronic products are the laptops, the desktop computers, the mobile phone, then the batteries, and so on. So the government policy insists the producers or the stockists to work under the EPR, extended producer responsibility, so that they have to give their electronic waste to the recycling companies by law. Yeah, and they have the government has fixed the targets. This is the target for the companies. Suppose I don't want to name the companies. 5 years back, you put 100 laptops into the market. So you need to collect, because the laptop shelf life is 4 years example. After 4 years, you need to collect 70% of the 100 laptops which you put 4 years back because it is already end of life. That's a kind of target the government has fixed, and it's working quite okay. But I think what, as a practitioner, we feel there's still a lot of level playing field, like informal sectors presence. Until otherwise, if the informal sectors are not being formalized or transformed, still the challenge continues in India. Yeah.
Sir, I have got one question. I am a cost accountant in Hyderabad.
Sir.
You just said that there is a 1 month course that you are conducting from your institute for the professionals and others
Yes,
on
sir.
this e-waste management.
Yes, sir.
How much does it cost and where are you doing this? Is it online or it is only physical modes?
Sir, out of 1 month, 70% is online and 30% is a practical in our facility.
What is the cost?
1 month, Prajita, are you able to comment on that? Let me talk to my institute head. Dr. Prajita, are you there?
Yeah. Hello,
Yes.
everyone. Good evening. I'm Dr. Prajata. Yes, sir. Actually, in this 1 month course, we have everything online where like one-to-one experts will be giving you lectures and clear all your doubts and take all the sessions and topics. And apart from that, including that, we have 5 days training program in our recycling unit as well. So total cost is like it's around 50,000 rupees, sir, including both 1 month online course plus 5 day training program. Yeah. If you want more details, Mr. Ranjit is our business development manager. He can share entire detail with course and everything with you as well, sir.
You can share with this
Yeah, we
organizer
will.
so that it can be shared with the participants.
Correct.
Sure,
Correct.
sir, definitely.
Yeah, we will send you the general one, the contact details to Dr. S.K. Gupta Saab, so that he can share with all the members who are attending this course today. Yeah.
Is that information available on your website?
Web also it's available, sir. www.vansiaem.com.
So I have posted the
Yeah, you
website
can
details
see
and
the-
the contact information in the chat box.
Yeah. I mean, just to come back to the same question, like, one of the best takeaway from our side is that our experience in the international market, hands-on experience. Yeah. Like we have done so far almost, I would say in my last 20 years experience, I have done almost, 500,000 tons of e-waste recycling put together. Yeah. Yeah, 500,000 tons of e-waste recycling in Singapore, in Malaysia, and so on. So we have a great hands-on experience, understanding of the e-waste. That's what the best takeaway from our courses. I mean, mostly the speakers, one is myself, and there are other international speakers as well to talk about decarbonization, sustainability, circular economy, and certifications, and so on. Yeah.
Sir, other than setting up the e-waste industry as an entrepreneur, will this course help social auditor in any way?
Yes, yes. So this will also help for the professionals. That is one of the course, we have working professionals. If they are heading the EHS department or the CSR department in the respective company, it will be very beneficial to know, because we will let them know all the national guidelines on the e-waste management and all the practices, good practices they need to, and what are the documentations to be fulfilled. So, we will teach relevant to the guidelines, certifications, documentations, and to perform, like, the ESG goals performance. That is also part of our one of the course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah.
other questions, sir? Mhm.
Yeah. I think
Ranjit, is there any other questions?
In the chat box,
No, sir.
any questions are there? Just
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Shyam Sundar Ramakrishnan, I don't know if that's a question. He's saying some companies in the Gulf go for PC replacement on corporate basis, where manufacturers arrange new ones either directly or through service provider.
Yeah, that's correct. Is there any question out of that, or I just want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's only an additional input, sir. You may go ahead.
Yeah. No, basically, especially the manufacturers has a proper guidelines today. They need to register with the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, and they need to get the APR certificate, whom they are working with, what they generate, how many employees are there, what are the types of e-waste they generate, and they need to be registered with the CPCB, get the certificate, and they also need to disclose who are their recycling partner at the end of the year, how much being recycled, and so on. It's a mandatory now as per the new regulations, which is just draft released and which is going to be implemented very soon, 2022 regulations. Yeah.
So is there any other questions from the participants?
I don't think, So on
So I
behalf of,
think that would be all.
yeah, now time is also there. No, we can conclude, sir, with a vote of thanks. Yeah. So on behalf of ICMI and Social Auditors Organization, we extend a hearty vote of thanks to our Venkatesh sir, Murthy sir, and your team. It's a wonderful area where one can work on it, because India is lagging behind in all these aspects actually. So thank you, sir, for your time and knowledge sharing on these topics. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking this session. It was really informative and knowledge gaining session to everyone. It was really good session to everyone, sir. Thank you once again to taking this session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.